Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto, where we come to transform ourselves and each other and the world. It is great to see you this morning. Let's take a moment to turn on our audio so that everybody can hear each other say hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, it's Anne.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi everyone.
Okay.
Hey.
Yes, good morning.
The mute.
Morning, everyone. You can see the order of service by following the link in the chat. There's important information there about upcoming events, so please do hang on to that page and look through it. We have Jack Owicki, co-chair of our stewardship team, here for a brief update and announcement.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of the Stewardship Committee to update you on the progress of the annual pledge drive. I'm happy to be able to tell you that so far, our returning pledgers have collectively increased their pledges by more than 5%, and that's great. However, pledges have been coming in at a lower rate than in recent years. You can see that on the graph, which shows the number of pledges returned versus time for this year and for the past 2 years. Now, the Finance Committee will submit a proposed budget to the board on March 25th. That happens before the end of the pledge drive every year, but we have enough experience to extrapolate from that point to the final pledge total pretty accurately. At least in past years, we could. All the uncertainties caused by COVID, it's going to be a lot harder to estimate the total by March 25th. This just adds to other uncertainties in UUCPA's income. Will we get another PPP loan from the government? Will our rental income bounce back from the past year's low value? Here's the bottom line. We need to have as good an idea as possible about this year's pledge income by the time the budget goes to the board. And how do we do that? By having everyone turn in their pledges as soon as they can, so we'll be close to the total before that point. You can return your pledge card or just send an email to pledge@uucpa.org. Thanks for your support of all the good things that UUCPA does.
Thank you, Jack. And now, let us begin our service. In the words of Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf, this is a congregation that gathers in faith. Not faith in one religion or one God or any one way. We gather in faith of the power of diversity, the power of love, and the hope of a world transformed by our care. We gather in faith in ourselves and those around us, not a faith that requires perfection or rightness in one another. Rather, a faith that in our shared imperfection we may learn to stumble and fall together. Faith that we will help one another to rise and to try again and again. We are Unitarian Universalists. With our centering words each week, we draw on the many sources of our living tradition. Today's words are from the novelist Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. To have money, it seemed, was to be consumed by money. As we follow the sound of the bell into silence, let us become centered and fully present in this place together. Will you please join in as Bruce leads us in singing, "Come, Come, Whoever You Are."
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Sharpie, do you have another Jodica tale for us to act out? I have one short episode from a much longer Jodica tale. This little episode doesn't tell about one of Buddha's previous lives. It's just a good story. Once upon a time, a queen married a Naga, who was from a divine race of beings, and they had 2 children together. The children were fully human, but their Naga side came out in their love of water. So the queen had a pool made for them where they could play. I want you two to make a pool for my children where they can play in the water.
Will do, Your Majesty.
We'll put some plants and fish in there too. But when they put the water into the pool, a turtle swam in. The children had never seen a turtle before. What's that thing? It's a yaka, a demon. Ah! The queen told her servants to catch the demon and bring it to the palace. When the children saw the turtle again, they cried and ran away. It's only a turtle, but I'm very fond of my children. If they're scared of the turtle, take it out and destroy it.
Yes, Your Majesty. But how shall we kill it? We could pound it to powder. We could bake it in hot coals. We could throw it in the whirlpool of the Yamuna.
Oh, what have I done to you that you would do such a dreadful thing to me? The other plans were bad enough, but to throw me in the water, that would be too cruel. Aha! Now we know what to do. Throw it in the whirlpool. So the queen's servants threw the turtle into the whirlpool. The turtle just laughed to themselves as they slipped away in the water. Oh, this worked out so well. Those people don't know how safe I am in the water. The turtle went on to have another adventure, from which they saved themselves in the same way, fooling more powerful people than escaping in the water. I think the turtle in the story is very smart.
It reminds me of the African American story of Brer Rabbit and the Briar Patch.
Maybe people in Africa and people in India and people in America tell some of the same stories.
We now turn our thoughts to the important events of our lives which we wish this community to share. If you have a joy or sorrow you would like me to speak this morning, please send your joys and sorrows to joyconcern@uucpa.org or post them in the chat box provided by Zoom, and they will be shared aloud. First, we seek to mark the deaths of over 500,000 U.S. Americans from COVID-19. In recent weeks, we have heard a little about just one person each Sunday, trying to feel the reality of losses so enormous that they are hard to comprehend. To remember 500,000 people, we will hear just the names, ages, and home states of 50 people, one from each state. COVID has taken U.S. Americans from other places, such as Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. This is purely symbolic, one from each of 50 states, each one symbolizing 10,000 people. Will you please join me in the solemnity of grief as I read the names? Jimmy Smallwood, age 77, from Alabama. Amanda Bouffieu, age 44, from Alaska. Mark Anthony Urquiza, age 65, from Arizona. Patricia Jacuzzi, age 72, from Arkansas. Lucio Gonzalez, age 73, from California. Charlotte Figi, age 7, from Colorado. Morgan Cobbs Jr., age 73, from Connecticut. Father Hillary Rogers, age 75, from Delaware. Terrence McNally, age 81, from Florida. Ron Hill, age 63, from Georgia. Art Whistler, age 75, from Hawaii. Kelly Hove, age 79, from Idaho. Mansour Tadros, age 69, from Illinois. Anthony Larry Rush, age 67, from Indiana. Gail Muggs Isaac, age 71, from Iowa. Dennis Wilson, age 74, from Kansas. Keiko Newts, age 87, from Kentucky. Matthew Steele Fitzgerald, age 35, from Louisiana. Janice Lynn Paré, age 49, from Maine. David Driscoll, age 88, from Maryland. Su Ying Wernicke, age 79, from Massachusetts. Cleta Martinez Ellison, age 82, from Michigan. Annie Glenn, age 100, from Minnesota. Eugene Thompson, age 46, from Mississippi. Lisa Ann Steelman, age 56, from Missouri. Jim Tomlin, age 77, from Montana. Carol Graham, age 76, from Nebraska. Joanne Milady, age 67, from New Hampshire. George Anthony Callis, age 27, from New Jersey. Alan Macy Dulles, Jr., age 95, from New Mexico. Lottie Adams, age 85, from New York. Felicia Campbell, age 85, from Nevada. Darren Arians, age 52, from North Carolina. David Ondal, age 55, from North Dakota. Mark Dwayne Wagner, Sr., age 76, from Ohio. Israel Sauz, age 22, from Oklahoma. Steve Betchart, age 71, from Oregon. Nelson Henry Jr., age 96, from Pennsylvania. Laudelina Amaral, age 82, from Rhode Island. Kenneth Smith, Sr., age 74, from South Carolina. Mary Hoffer, age 51, from South Dakota. Sandy Blankenship, age 71, from Tennessee. Stephen Thompson, age 66, from Texas. Janice Blodgett, age 85, from Utah. Roger Guillemette, age 68, from Vermont. Cynthia Mendoza, age 68, from Virginia. Remigio Garcia, age 71, from Washington. John Palmer, age 85, from West Virginia. Leonard Wells, age 69, from Wisconsin. Roy Edwards, age 66, from Wyoming. May their memories and the memories of all the more than 500,000 who have left us be cherished and give comfort to those who loved them. I also have two things to share regarding our own community before I share all that you have been sending in. I light this candle for the life of John Cohn, longtime member here at UUCPA, much loved and loving, who died peacefully in his sleep on February 14th. John knew that the end was growing near, and he accepted it and chose to go peacefully and got his wish by dying in his sleep shortly after deciding no longer to eat. He no longer felt a desire to eat and met his end as he wished. I'll share news of his memorial service when we have arranged it with his family. And the mother of Diane Meyer, Maya Meyer, asked to share that Diane would have been 64 years old this weekend. Thank you, Maya, for reminding us of that. And Diane is much in our thoughts. Oh, so much to fill our hearts here at home and, of course, across the country. So let us take a moment to just hold all that we've heard, this marvelous, blessed, difficult mix of joy and sorrow, the good and bad in our lives, holding each other through it all. Let us open our hearts in compassion. Blessed be. And now, please join in as Bruce leads us in singing Return Again.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Our reading today is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 20, verses 1 through 13. Jesus said, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, 'You also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right.' So they went. When he went out again about noon, and about 3 o'clock, he did the same. And about 5 o'clock, he went out and found others standing around, and he said to them, 'Why are you standing here idle all day?' They said to him, 'Because no one has hired us.' He said to them, 'You also go into the vineyard.' When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his manager, 'Call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first.' When those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now, when the first came, they thought they would receive more. But each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage?" It is possible that I was overly influenced by The Story About Ping, a picture book by Margaret Flack, illustrated by Kurt Wise, that we had when I was a child. It is also distinctly possible that this book, which was published in 1933, has offensive portrayals of China. I'm going from memory here, and it has been a very long time since I read it, so if so, I apologize and do not intend to endorse every aspect of the book. Ping is a young duck who lives with his parents, siblings, and numerous aunts, uncles, and cousins on a boat on the Yangtze River. Each morning, the boat's owner, their keeper, lets them off the boat to graze in the water and along the riverbank, and each evening he calls them back in. The last duck up the ramp onto the boat gets a smack on the back from the long stick of the keeper. Naturally, Ping never wants to be the last one. Well, on this particular evening, he is head down in the river, as ducks often are, when the call goes to return home. And by the time he is upright, he can see that he's not going to make it. He'll be the last one. So he hides. He sleeps on the riverbank and spends the next day looking for his boat and having adventures along the way. Oh, the sense of dread in a young child when Ping wakes up and sees a river packed with boats, but none of them his. The relief of finally seeing the familiar boat and the fear of being smacked as one hurries home. I suppose it would reward disobedience if Ping escaped smacking, so when he does find home after his day of adventures, he's on time, but just barely. He's the last duck and receives his smack. He's happy to be home, curled up on the straw with his family, so all is well, but I can still feel the stomach-clenching fear of that smack. I think it either had an overly strong effect on me or I was already given to being very Ping-like, because when I was a teenager, I caused my mom and dad some gray hairs by staying out very late after school, not calling, no cell phones in those days, but that's no excuse, and coming home to very upset parents whose response was relief mixed with, "Where the mumble, mumble, mumble have you been? And why didn't you just call us to tell us when you'd be home?" I wasn't getting up to anything bad, but just hanging out with friends in the thrilling city of New Haven and losing track of time. But this is key. When I did realize I was late, I didn't want to call because I was afraid that, like Ping, I'd be met with a verbal smack. "Where are you? We're about to eat dinner." And although I wasn't conscious of it, I know I also began to drag my feet about going home, because on my way to my cozy, safe family nest, I was going to have to endure that punishment. "We were about to call the police. Why do you do this? You're grounded. And inevitably, one day you'll have a child, and I hope they don't do this to you." Now, of course, my sympathies are entirely with my parents. Even then, I knew they were in the right. It's possible that that knowledge was punishment enough, but I don't blame them for needing to let off some steam and to try to keep it from happening again by giving me a penalty like grounding that I would want to avoid. Still, the penalty that stays with me isn't the grounding, but that gauntlet of anger. And I recognize it in dynamics like this. Representative Liz Cheney, after having countenanced all sorts of illegalities by the president, has finally had enough after the attempted insurrection of January 6th and votes for impeachment. Naturally enough, this earns her not only the anger of everyone who opposes impeachment, but a mixed reaction from those who favor it. They're happy to have her vote, but they can't resist a mighty eye roll and a "what took you so long?" They take the opportunity to point out all the ways she has failed in the past. It's a verbal and political smack on the back with a long stick. Natural, as I say, but possibly counterproductive. Yes, many of us drag our feet way too long before doing the right thing. And yes, the anger and even a punishment for the ways we have hurt people are totally appropriate. I'll return to those. But first, can we acknowledge that change is hard? What we are talking about in spiritual terms is repentance, turning, realizing that we have been wrong, have done wrong, and changing our ways. As another parent of a teenager said, when the kid wakes up and drags themselves to the family table, try to refrain from saying, well, look who finally decided to join us. How about, we're so glad you're here, which is true. The irritation that they took this long is also genuine, but perhaps that's not the best moment to express it. In fact, maybe it's a good moment to recognize that our primary, our first and most loving feeling about their being there is gladness. That's the kingdom of heaven feeling. That's how God, the owner of the vineyard, responds with gladness for all who arrive, no matter when. In fact, he pays the workers who only worked for an hour the usual daily wage. This is really annoying to the workers who have been at it the whole day. Maybe they're feeling like they should have kicked back and enjoyed themselves. But Jesus says, no, they all receive the grateful reward, not because the landowner is unjust, but because, as he says in the verses that follow our reading, he's generous. It's clear that Jesus thinks this is terrific. Well, as my daughter said when we talked about this topic a couple of days ago, Jesus gonna Jesus. Are we expected to be this generous of spirit? Maybe not. But we are definitely being told that our petty desire to mete out justice in that moment pales beside the richer, greater, more loving response of the holy way. And if that bugs us when we are the workers who worked all day, what if we thought of those times that we have been the latecomers? How do we feel then? There are a few parables like this in the Christian Bible, parables of how we are welcome and celebrated no matter what. The son who leaves home and disgraces himself by spending himself into poverty, but is still joyfully embraced when he returns home. What these stories, including one of the workers in the vineyard, are assuring us is, we know that you are imperfect. We know that you mess up, that sometimes you are slow to do the right thing. That's being human. And when you learn and grow and change for the better, that is cause for rejoicing. Welcome. Welcome home to your best self. Why do we respond differently? Some of it might be a self-righteous desire to get extra points for being first. The most woke white person condescending to those who are late to anti-racism. The harder worker wanting an in with the boss at the expense of the colleague whose work ethic took a few years to develop. But we are also motivated by a genuine desire for justice. That's what makes these parables difficult. And that's why it's important to distinguish between the grace of which Jesus speaks, which awaits all of us who grow, and the justice necessary for a beloved community. This is why, for example, I am not saying that people of color are wrong to express anger at latecomers to their struggle, especially when those latecomers have added to their pain up until that point. There's a disturbing and self-serving tendency of those of us not suffering from a particular form of oppression to want those who are to be Jesus-like in their forgiveness. I think of the praise heaped on the African-American judge who hugged Amber Geiger, an off-duty police officer, white, who had stormed into the apartment of Botham Jean, her black unarmed neighbor, and shot him, later claiming self-defense. This was after her conviction. I can only speak for myself, but I suspect that we white folks are hoping that we will be given such grace. The judge had a moment of holy grace, as did Botham Jean's brother, who also hugged his brother's killer. It's praiseworthy, but not something anyone can expect of someone in that position. Liz Cheney, like others, has done a lot of harm, and she hasn't repaired that harm simply by supporting a just impeachment. Reparation is an essential part of repentance. More to the point, it's an essential part of building a better world. So people are completely right to insist to the latecomers to any struggle for justice, you must help repair the damage, especially when they have been part of inflicting the damage. If we have truly changed our ways, we will embrace the opportunity to make things right. Amber Geiger is serving prison time, as well she should, and she was urged by the judge to change her ways, as well she should. She can't restore Botham Jean to life, but she needs to do everything possible to repair the damage to his family and to all people victimized by police violence. That must accompany any welcome into the fold. And we are all flawed. We all do one another harm on the long, slow, track-back-filled path to being wiser and more compassionate. And here in this congregation, we are all trying to change for the better. As we say each week, we are here to transform ourselves, each other, and the world. None of us is ever perfect. Change is hard, and if we're honest, it always comes later than it should. So, what if we held one another to account for the harm we've done before we changed for the better, and welcomed latecomers into the fold with a truly glad, we're so happy you've joined us. As the offenders, we don't get to say, hey, at least I got here. We don't get to pretend that our delays have done no harm. Sometimes they have. Cheney has opposed civil rights for LGBT folks, including her own sister. And not all is forgiven and forgotten by the fact that she does something else right. As the earlier arrivals, we don't get to say, everyone who arrives later than I do is a failure. We all have something we still aren't doing right, after all. Maybe we can't be Jesus, but we can try to make this world a little more like the kingdom of heaven by how we accept people when they join us. I've wondered about Ping in the years since I first read that ragged, falling apart picture book. Why does the last duck get a smack? Why does anyone have to get a smack? And if the owner does have some need to enforce a rule, why not make it something like every duck must arrive by sundown and anyone who doesn't get smacked on the back? That would still be harsh, but it would at least be reasonable. Too often we are pitted against each other as if there isn't room enough for everyone in the kingdom of heaven. We pit ourselves against each other, as if the purpose of being good is to accumulate brownie points, when in fact, The purpose of being good is to make this world more like the one we dream about, the one where no harm is done, where all hurts are healed, where both justice and mercy flourish. We're not there yet, and we won't be there in our lifetimes or in any human lifetime. But oh, how sweet it is when any one of us chooses the better path and does the kinder, the wiser, the more loving thing. So let us humbly remember that none of us is quite as far along that path as we would like to be, and welcome each other with a simple, heartfelt, "We're so glad you're here." As a part of the Free Church tradition, we accept no money from any governmental body, nor do we receive money from any ecclesiastical authority, in order that we shall remain free to govern ourselves. In addition to their annual pledges, each week our members and friends may choose to give an additional contribution as a public witness that we are and shall remain a free church. With our offering, we also assert that we are part of the interdependent web of existence. 1 week per month, your gift goes to our chosen community organization. So earlier this month, we took up an offering for our justice partner, California Interfaith Power and Light, whom you can still support via our giving page if you missed it. The order of service gives a QR code and link, and also information on using text to give via Give Lively. Please give generously. If you are visiting us for the first time, you're our guest. Please just enjoy the music as our gift to you. Thank you. And now let us join in as Bruce leads us in singing, "There's a Wideness in Your Mercy."
There's a wide calmness of the sea. There's a kindness in your justice which is more than liberty. But we make your love too narrow by false limits of our own, and we magnify your strictness with a zeal you will not own. For the love of God is broader than the measures of our minds, and the heart of the eternal is most wonderfully kind.
Thank you to Kevin Crane for calling my attention to these words by the Reverend Maureen Killoran. No matter how weak or frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected. Each day, act so you may be a little more whole. Please stay after the benediction for our virtual coffee time. You'll be invited to small group conversations in our breakout rooms, or you can stay here in the main room with me to discuss the service. You should be able to move between breakout rooms on your own, and the rooms will stay open for half an hour. Now please unmute yourself and turn on your video while we say our benediction together. Go out into the world
of
Peace.
of good courage. Hold fast to what is good.
Good.
Turn
no
no
evil
one
for evil.
Strengthen the
Faint-hearted.
support the weak.
Support the weak.
Help the suffering. Rejoice in
Rejoice
peace.
in
Love with word and deed.
love with word and deed.
All being.
Honor all being.
Amen.
Amen.
Have a beautiful day.
Beautiful week.
Oh,